The judge narrows his eyes at the sticky note on the projector screen, his voice calm but sharp. Ms. Mitchell-Gray, this is your handwriting, correct? Need this rushed, Mom is out of it, but we have to get it done. Would you like to explain what you meant by out of it while your mother was signing over her house to you? The courtroom goes so quiet, I can hear the hum of the air conditioner and the scratch of someone's pen in the back row. My sister Brittany's face goes from confident to ghost white in seconds. She opens her mouth, then closes it again, blinking fast like she's searching for a script that isn't there. Her lawyer shifts uncomfortably beside her. My own attorney leans slightly toward me and whispers, "This is the turning point. Stay calm." Brittany finally sputters, "It was just poor wording. Mom knew what she was doing. Sarah is just being dramatic and money-hungry." A low murmur ripples through the relatives and neighbors, filling the pews behind us. They've all heard the rumors. They've seen the social media posts. But this is the first time they're seeing what Brittany actually wrote to rush through the deed to our mother's house while our mom's brain was fading. The judge looks from the note to Brittany, then to me, and I feel my heart pounding so hard it almost drowns out his next question. "Ms. Mitchell-Gray, did your mother understand that this new deed would cut your sister out of the house completely?" Brittany's lips tremble. And in that moment, watching her scramble while the evidence sits 10 feet high on a screen, I know, the golden child finally ran out of shine. But this didn't start in this courtroom. It started years earlier, with a golden child, a ranch-style house, and a mother who kept saying, "Don't worry, I made it fair." Hey everyone, welcome back. If this is your first time here, my name is Sarah, and I share real stories of family betrayal and the justice that followed. If you've ever been the responsible one in your family while someone else got treated like royalty just for showing up, this story is going to hit close to home. If you find this story valuable or it makes you feel a little less alone, I'd really appreciate your support, a like, a comment, or joining this community for more stories like this. And if you've ever dealt with inheritance drama or a golden child sibling, share your experience in the comments. Your stories matter more than you think, and they might help someone else feel seen. Now, let me take you back to where this all really began. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm in my late 30s, and I work as a certified public accountant in Charlotte, North Carolina. I make around $90,000 a year, and I earned every bit of that with long hours, exam nights, and way too much caffeine. I've been married to my husband, Eric, for about a decade. He's a high school teacher making around $62,000 a year. He's one of those people who can walk into a room of teenagers and somehow get them to care about history. We have 2 kids, Mason, who's around 9, and Ava, who's 6. They're the center of our world and the reason I care so much about security and stability. Personality-wise, I've always been the practical one. I'm the spreadsheet girl. I make lists for my lists. I'm the person who knows where every document is, what every bill is, when every appointment is scheduled. Growing up, I was the kid who did her homework without being asked and reminded my parents when the power bill was due. Then there's my younger sister, Brittany. Brittany Mitchell-Gray is about 4 years younger than me. She works as a pharmaceutical sales rep and pulls in somewhere around $150,000 a year. Think designer handbags, shiny SUV, and a big, new-build house in one of those upscale Ballantine neighborhoods where all the houses look like model homes and the driveways are packed with luxury cars. She loves appearances. Her hair is always perfect, nails always done, clothes always on trend. Her Instagram looks like a lifestyle magazine spread, brunches, vacations, work trips with poolside cocktails, shots of her spotless kitchen with captions like, "Grateful for this beautiful life." Growing up, Brittany was the golden child. Not because she was responsible or hardworking, but because she was sparkly. She knew how to charm people, especially our mom. Our mom, Carol, raised us mostly in that modest ranch-style house she owned outright. It wasn't fancy, but it was home. 3 bedrooms, brick exterior, creaky floorboards in the hallway, and a tiny backyard with a patchy lawn. To some people it would just be another older house, but to us, it was everything. For me, it was also supposed to be something else someday, a safety net. The favoritism started when we were kids. When I turned 10, My birthday party was a homemade cake in the kitchen with a few family members. Mom baked a box cake, stuck some candles in it, and we sang. It was nice. Simple. Right after we cut the cake, she was already cleaning up, saying, money's tight, honey. I hope you understand. When Brittany turned 10, the backyard turned into a mini carnival. Mom rented a bounce house, hired a clown, ordered custom cupcakes, and handed out goodie bags like we were in some fancy neighborhood. Cars lined the street. Kids yelled and laughed in the yard all afternoon. I remember standing at the kitchen sink, looking out the window at Brittany bouncing up and down with her friends, and I said quietly, "You never did this for me." Mom was wiping counters and said without looking at me, "You were always my easy child, Sarah. You didn't need all this to feel special." At the time, I told myself it didn't matter. I was the easy child, the responsible one. I took pride in that. But the seed was planted. Fast forward to when I was in high school. I studied my butt off. Late nights, flashcards, extra credit. I graduated with honors. On graduation day, Mom hugged me quick and said, "I'm proud of you, honey. Now we need to start thinking about those student loans." She handed me a folder she'd put together with loan info and payment plans. A few years later, when Brittany was in college, she flunked multiple classes. She changed majors twice, bounced around, and then called Mom sobbing one night. "I can't do this, Mom. College is so hard. I'm going to lose my financial aid. I need more time. Everyone else got to study abroad. Why can't I?" Within a few weeks, Mom had somehow pulled together money for 2 extra years of tuition and a study abroad experience that cost about $12,000. When I found out, I said, "You told me you didn't have money." "I took out $40,000 in loans, Mom." She sighed and said, "You're good with money. You'll pay them off. Brittany just needs a little boost. You know how she is." That sentence, "you know how she is," became the excuse for everything. The pattern kept going. Following Dad's funeral a while back, I spent months helping Mom with paperwork. I drove her to the bank, sat with her at the kitchen table sorting through statements, contacted insurance, made calls she didn't want to make. Grief is heavy, and I was grieving too, but someone had to handle the practical stuff. Brittany? She couldn't handle grief, so she booked a beach vacation with friends. She posted photos of herself on a lounge chair with captions like, "Self-care is important. Life is short." One afternoon, while I was on hold with the insurance company, Mom said, "You're such a blessing, Sarah. I don't know what I'd do without you." I smiled and said, "You'd figure it out." She shook her head. "No. You're the one who takes care of everything. Don't worry. The house will be your safety net when I'm gone." I've made sure things are fair. I didn't push her for details. I trusted her. She was my mom. Things really started shifting a few years ago when Mom's health began to decline. It started small, little memory lapses, repeating questions, forgetting where she put things. Then it got worse. Missed meds, confusion about appointments, telling the same stories several times in one visit. I stepped in automatically. I scheduled her doctor's appointments, organized her medications into pill boxes, and eventually arranged a part-time caregiver to come a few days a week when I couldn't be there. One Sunday afternoon that spring, I was sitting at her kitchen table with my laptop, paying her utility bills online and reconciling her checking account. Mom watched me for a minute and said, "I'm so glad you know how to do all this. The house, it'll be your safety net. I don't want you worrying, especially with the kids. I've made sure things are fair." "Fair how?" I asked gently. She waved her hand. "You and Brittany are both taken care of. Just trust me. I talked to a lawyer. I'm tired, honey. Let's not talk about it today." I let it go. I wish I hadn't. Around that same time, Brittany started acting like the house was a foregone conclusion, her foregone conclusion. During one visit, she stood in the middle of Mom's tiny kitchen with a latte in hand, looking around like a developer planning a flip. When I redo Mom's kitchen, she said casually, "I'm knocking down this wall for sure. Open concept, big island, quartz countertops. This place has so much potential." I glanced up from the table. "When you redo Mom's kitchen?" She shrugged. "Well, after. I'll I'll probably rent the place out or maybe do a full renovation. The market's great. Mom was sitting in her recliner, eyes half closed. You girls will figure it out when the time comes, she murmured. You're both taken care of. I caught Brittany's eye. Mom just said we'll figure it out. We'll both figure it out. Brittany's smile didn't reach her eyes. Relax, Sarah. You make more money than me anyway. You don't need to stress about a little old house. A little old house that was worth around $450,000 paid off. But that wasn't even the worst part. As Mom's cognition slipped more, the dynamic got weirder. Brittany would show up with bags of takeout, take a few selfies with Mom, then leave after an hour, posting, visiting my sweet mama. Family first. Meanwhile, I was the one taking calls in the middle of the night when Mom forgot if she'd taken her meds. I was the one talking to doctors about cognitive decline and capacity. I was the one rearranging my work schedule to take her to neurologist appointments. One afternoon after a particularly rough appointment, I walked Mom out to the car. She clutched my arm and whispered, I hate feeling stupid. The girls will split this place, you know. It'll give you some security. Especially you, Sarah. You need it more. That sentence lodged in my chest like a stone. If you say so, I said, half joking, half testing. She squeezed my hand. I've already talked to the lawyer. You're both taken care of. Don't fuss. So I didn't fuss. Then, one evening that fall, Mom passed away peacefully in her sleep. Grief feels different when you've been your parents' caretaker. There's sadness, of course, but also this disorienting silence where your responsibilities used to be. No more pillboxes, no more appointment scheduling. Just a stack of sympathy cards and a house full of memories. I expected the logistics afterward to be straightforward. Mom had said she talked to a lawyer. She'd said things would be fair. I assumed there'd be a will, maybe a simple process through probate, and we'd split the value of the house. Instead, about a week after the funeral, Brittany called and changed everything. I was in my kitchen packing school lunches for Mason and Ava when my phone rang. I put it on speaker and kept slicing apples. Hey, I said. Brittany's voice was bright. Too bright. Hey. So, just wanted you to know, it's all already handled. What is? I asked. Mom's stuff. The house. The lawyer said the way Mom set it up, it's really simple. She did a transfer on death deed to me. So the house is mine now. Less drama that way. The knife stopped in my hand. I'm sorry, what? She sighed, like I was being annoying. It's not a big deal, Sarah. Mom and I went to a lawyer a few months before she died. She put the house in my name through one of those transfer deeds. It avoids probate. Cleaner. The will leaves the residence to me too. You don't have to deal with any of it. You're welcome. My stomach twisted. Why didn't anyone tell me? Mom told me she made sure things were fair. She told me the house would be my safety net. You make more money than I do, Brittany snapped. You don't need a house on top of that. The lawyer said it was simplest if one of us handled things. That's not what Mom wanted, I said quietly. You don't know what Mom wanted, she shot back. Look, I'm already talking to a property manager about renting it out. You can come get any sentimental stuff you want, but the rest is my responsibility now. This is hard enough on me as it is. She hung up before I could respond. I stood there in the kitchen, staring at the half-made lunches, and felt like the floor was shifting. Later that week, I went over to Mom's house to look through her things. Her longtime neighbor, Mrs. Green, came over with a casserole and a hug. She lowered her voice. Your mom always told me she wanted you to have some security from this place. Said something like, the girls will split the house, but Sarah needs it more with those little ones. That's what she said, honey. My throat tightened. Did she ever say she wanted to leave it all to Brittany? Mrs. Green frowned. No, never. That doesn't sound like her at all. That stuck with me. But it wasn't until a few weeks later that I fully understood what had happened. About 6 weeks after the funeral, a thin envelope arrived from the law office Brittany had mentioned. It looked unassuming. No thick packet, no detailed explanation. Just a single envelope with my name typed neatly on the front. I sat at our dining table, hands trembling as I slid my finger under the flap and pulled out the contents. Inside was a copy of a new deed and a simple will. Both named Brittany as the sole recipient of the primary residence. The documents were dated from a few months before Mom died. I looked at Mom's signature and felt my stomach drop. It was shaky, uneven, nothing like the bold, looping script I'd grown up seeing on permission slips and holiday cards. It looked like someone had guided her hand. My eyes kept scanning, heart pounding, and that's when a smaller piece of paper slipped out from the back of the file. It was a sticky note. The handwriting was Brittany's. I'd recognize those bubbly letters anywhere. Need this rushed, Mom is out of it, but we have to get it done. I stared at those words over and over. Out of it. My mother, confused, cognitively declining, signing away the only real asset she had while my sister told a paralegal she was out of it. My chest tightened, my vision blurred, and I had to put my head down on the table just to breathe. That was the moment something inside me snapped. Up until then, I'd always been the one to keep the peace. I swallowed my hurt. I accepted less. I told myself, you're the responsible one. You'll be okay. But this wasn't an extra birthday party or a study abroad trip. This was my mom's house. This was my mom's intention. This was my children's security. And my sister had taken advantage of a dying woman's confusion to steal it. I wiped my eyes, took a few deep breaths, and walked into the living room where Eric was grading papers on the couch. He looked up immediately. What's wrong? I handed him the deed, the will, and the sticky note without saying a word. He read them, his jaw clenching tighter with each line. Are you kidding me? He finally said. She wrote, out of it, on a note about your mom signing this? That's disgusting. She stole Mom's house, I whispered. Mom thought we'd split it. I know she did. She told me. She told Mrs. Green. Brittany just helped herself. Eric set the papers down carefully. Then we don't just let this go. I don't know where to even start, I admitted. I've never. Call a lawyer, he said. Not the one Brittany used. Someone who deals with this stuff. Elder law. Estate stuff. You always protect everyone else. Let's protect you for once. That was the night I stopped just being the responsible daughter and started becoming someone who would fight back. Within a couple of days, a coworker recommended an elder law attorney. The consultation fee alone was $400, which felt like a lot to drop on a maybe, but Eric squeezed my hand and said, we'll figure it out. I walked into the attorney's office with a folder clutched to my chest, deed, will, sticky note, a few of Mom's medical records I'd already printed. The attorney, a calm man in his 50s with kind eyes, listened as I laid everything out. I told him about Mom's cognitive decline, about her repeated statements that she wanted things to be fair, about the neighbor, about Brittany's phone call. He read the sticky note twice. Mom is out of it, but we have to get it done, he repeated slowly. That's not a good look. And this signature. He held up the copy of the deed. Was your mother signing like this in other documents around that time? No, I said. Her handwriting was shaky, but this looks almost guided. And she was so confused by them. She would call me and ask the same question 3 times in one conversation. He nodded. This may be a classic case of undue influence and possibly lack of capacity. Your sister benefited directly, arranged the appointment, and acknowledged your mother was out of it while rushing the deed. That's exactly the kind of thing judges don't like to see. So, do I have a case? My voice shook. You have enough to investigate, he said. But I'll be honest with you. This won't be cheap, and it won't be quick. My retainer is $22,000 to take this on. That number hit me like a truck. $22,000. I thought about our mortgage, the kids' activities, the emergency fund I'd meticulously built. I thought about the $40,000 in student loans I'd once paid off on my own because Brittany needed the help more. I also thought about my mom, confused in a lawyer's office, signing away her house while my sister wrote she was out of it. Okay, I said after a long moment. I'll find it. I want to move forward. The attorney nodded. If we proceed, I'll need every bit of documentation you can get. Medical records, text messages, voicemails, witnesses, anything showing your mother's intention and state of mind. The more, the better. Over the next 2 months, gathering that evidence became my second job. I requested Mom's full medical records, focusing on the months before and after Brittany marched her into that lawyer's office. The neurologist's notes were heartbreaking but helpful. Phrases like short-term memory impairment, repeating questions, and appears confused about recent events jumped out at me. I went through old texts with Brittany and found messages where she complained, "Mom keeps asking me to sign things for her. I swear she doesn't even read them." Another text, "She asked me what day it was 3 times in 20 minutes. This is so exhausting." I saved everything. I dug through my voicemail and found clips I'd forgotten. I'd kept. Mom saying things like, "Hey honey, just wanted you to know I told the neighbor the girls will split the house. I don't want either of you worrying." Her voice was a little fuzzy, but the words were clear. I asked Mrs. Green and another neighbor if they'd be willing to give statements. Both agreed. Mrs. Green said, "Your mama told me more than once she wanted you girls to split the house, but that you needed it more with those grandbabies." We had them sign written statements. My attorney later took more formal testimony. Meanwhile, Brittany was busy playing sole owner. Within a few weeks of Mom's passing, she'd found tenants and started renting the house out. She bragged about it on social media, turning Mom's place into an income stream. She'd be so proud. I'm being smart with her legacy. She never offered me a cent of that rental income. She never even told me what she was charging. When I asked once, she said, "That's really none of your business, Sarah. I'm the one dealing with repairs and management. You didn't want the responsibility." I hadn't said that. I'd never been given the chance. As the months passed and the legal case slowly moved forward, the texts from Brittany got nastier. When she found out I'd hired an attorney and formally contested the deed and will, she exploded. "You're insane," she wrote. "Mom wanted to reward the daughter who actually did something with her life. You've always been jealous." Another time, "If you drag this into court, I'll make sure everyone knows you're just money hungry. You make plenty. You're just mad Mom picked me." I screenshot every single message. My attorney filed a petition in probate court challenging the late-in-life deed and will. The claim was clear. Mom lacked the mental capacity to understand what she was signing, and Brittany exerted undue influence to benefit herself. We subpoenaed the notary who'd been present at the signing. We requested documents from the law office Brittany had used. We pushed for any notes, intake forms, or internal communications. That was how we got the sticky note in the first place. A paralegal, clearly uncomfortable with what had happened, had stuck it back in the file. When the law office had to produce everything, it fell into our hands. Weeks turned into months. Legal bills stacked up. Every time an invoice hit my inbox, my stomach clenched. But Eric and I kept having the same conversation. "This is about more than money," he'd remind me. "This is about what your mom actually wanted. This is about not letting your sister get away with preying on someone who couldn't fight back." He was right. But I won't pretend it was easy. I cried more than once staring at those bills, wondering if I was being foolish, wondering if I should just cut my losses. Then I'd pull out the sticky note and read those words again. "Mom is out of it, but we have to get it done." And my doubt would turn back into fire. About a year after Mom's death, the court finally set a hearing date. A humid Thursday morning in probate court. One hearing that would decide whether my sister got away with it or not. The night before, I barely slept. Eric held me and said, "Tomorrow, just tell the truth. Let the evidence speak. You've done everything you can." That morning, I put on the most straightforward, no-nonsense outfit I had. Not flashy, not timid. Just solid. I wanted the judge to see who I really was, the stable, responsible daughter who took care of her mother, not the jealous, greedy caricature Brittany painted in her texts. When we walked into the courtroom, my heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. The courtroom was packed. On one side sat me, Eric, my attorney, and a couple of supportive relatives who'd heard enough to know something was off. On the other side sat Brittany, her husband, and her lawyer. Brittany looked composed. Expensive blazer, perfect hair, that same performative sadness she'd used at Dad's funeral right before she went to the beach. She gave me a tight little smile that didn't reach her eyes. You're about to lose smile." Her lawyer opened their file, and I saw the thick stack of documents, all neatly tabbed. It would have been intimidating if I didn't know what we had in our own file. The judge came in, and we all stood. He was middle-aged, serious, with the kind of face that didn't give away much. He read through the case file for a moment before looking up. "All right," he said. "We're here today on a petition to set aside a deed and will execute it by the decedent in favor of her younger daughter, Brittany Mitchell Gray, on grounds of undue influence and lack of capacity. Counsel, you may proceed." My attorney went first. He started by painting a picture of Mom's state during those last months: the cognitive decline, the medical notes, the repeated questions, the confusion. He introduced her neurologist's records, highlighting phrases that made my stomach knot all over again. He called Mrs. Green, who testified quietly but firmly that Mom had told her multiple times that the girls will split the house and that Sarah needs the security more with those little ones. He introduced my saved voicemails, where Mom's own voice could be heard saying almost exactly that. Then came the notary. Under oath, the notary looked uncomfortable. He admitted that Brittany had rushed the signing. She said her mother wasn't having a good day, and they needed to get this done, he said. The older woman seemed confused at times. She asked what she was signing a couple of times. I explained as best I could, but, looking back, I probably should have slowed things down or refused. My attorney then asked, "Did you have any independent conversation with the decedent about what she wanted to do with her house prior to this appointment?" The notary shook his head. "No. The younger daughter did most of the talking." The judge scribbled notes. Then it was time for the receipts. My attorney clicked a remote, and the projector at the front of the courtroom lit up. First appeared a text message from Brittany to me. On the screen, the judge and everyone else could read: "Mom wanted to reward the daughter who actually did something with her life. You've always been jealous." Then another: "If you drag this into court, I'll make sure everyone knows you're money hungry. You make plenty. You're just mad Mom picked me." And then, the star of the show, the sticky note. 10 feet tall, Brittany's handwriting blared across the front wall of the courtroom. "Need this rushed, Mom is out of it, but we have to get it done." You could almost feel the air shift. A couple of relatives in the back gasped. Someone whispered, "Wow." The judge leaned forward, frowning. "Ms. Mitchell Gray," he said, looking over his glasses at Brittany. "This is your handwriting?" Brittany's lawyer stalled. "Your Honor, we'd like to object to the characterization of that note." The judge held up a hand. "I'll hear from your client." "Is this your handwriting, Ms. Mitchell Gray?" Brittany swallowed hard. "Yes, but it's being taken out of context. Mom was just tired. I meant like, she was out of it from medication, not like she didn't know what she was doing. It was just poor wording. She asked me to help. Sarah is twisting everything because she wants money." My attorney remained calm. "Your Honor, if I may," he said. "In addition to this note, we have medical records from around the same time documenting the decedent's confusion, including repeated questioning and difficulty understanding complex information. We also have testimony that the decedent expressed an intention that her daughters would split the house, not that she would disinherit one entirely. The only person who benefits from this last-minute change is the daughter who rushed the process while acknowledging her mother was out of it." He let that hang in the air for a moment. Brittany's lawyer tried to spin it. He painted Brittany as the dutiful daughter, who stepped up when I didn't want the responsibility. He claimed Mom changed her mind because I was already successful and Brittany needed the house to maintain her lifestyle. At one point, his voice almost turned accusatory as he gestured toward me. "Ms. Mitchell is simply upset that her mother chose someone else," he said. "This is sour grapes dressed up as a lawsuit. She's dragging her family through court instead of honoring her mother's choices." I kept my eyes on the judge, not on him. Inside, though, I was simmering. My attorney stood again and quietly demolished that narrative. "Your Honor, if Ms. Mitchell didn't want responsibility, she had a funny way of showing it," he said. "We've entered into evidence months of caretaking records, appointment schedules, and financial documents all handled by her. And you've heard unrebutted testimony that after the decedent's husband passed, it was Ms. Mitchell, not Ms. Mitchell Gray, who handled the paperwork, the bills, the arrangements." He paused, then nodded toward the screen. "The only thing Ms. Mitchell refused to do was stand by while her sister took advantage of their mother's confusion to enrich herself." When it was my turn to speak, My hands were shaking, but my voice stayed steady. I told the judge about the birthday parties, the tuition, the study abroad money, the beach vacation after Dad's funeral. I wasn't trying to make Brittany look bad, just to show the pattern. I told him about Mom telling me over and over that the house would be my safety net, that she wanted things fair, that the girls will split this place. Sarah needs it more. I talked about the day I opened that envelope, saw the shaky signature, and then saw the sticky note. I don't care about having more than my sister, I said, my voice cracking a little. I care that my mom's actual wishes were overridden when she was at her most vulnerable. I care that someone she trusted used her confusion to take everything. My mom trusted me to take care of her. This is the last way I can do that. When I finished, the judge looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded slightly, almost imperceptibly. After closing arguments, the judge took a short recess. Those 20 minutes felt longer than the entire hearing. Eric wrapped his arm around my shoulders. Whatever happens, you fought for her, he said. You didn't let this slide. Brittany paced on the other side of the room, whispering angrily with her lawyer. At one point, she looked over at me with pure hatred in her eyes, like I'd personally ripped her dream house out from under her. What she didn't realize yet was that her own greed was the thing doing that. When the judge came back and we all took our seats, my heart felt like it was lodged in my throat. He cleared his throat and started reading from his notes. Having reviewed the evidence, testimony, and arguments, he said, "This court finds the following." He summarized Mom's medical condition. He referenced specific notations about confusion and impaired short-term memory. He mentioned the testimony from neighbors about her stated intention that her daughters would split the house. Then he turned to Brittany's actions. It is clear from the note entered into evidence, written by Ms. Mitchell-Gray herself, that at the time of the execution of the deed and will, she believed her mother to be, quote, out of it, end quote, and nevertheless proceeded to rush the process, he said. Combined with the decedent's documented cognitive decline and the fact that this late-in-life change benefited only one child, the court finds that the deed and will executed at that time are the product of undue influence and occurred when the decedent lacked full capacity to understand the nature and consequences of her actions. My breath caught. Accordingly, he continued, the court voids the transfer on death deed and the subsequent will. The prior estate plan is reinstated, under which the decedent's assets, including the residence, are to be split evenly between her two daughters. I squeezed Eric's hand so hard he winced. But the judge wasn't finished. Furthermore, he said, looking directly at Brittany, it has been established that Ms. Mitchell-Gray has collected rental income from the property under color of sole ownership. He shuffled some papers. The court orders Ms. Mitchell-Gray to pay Ms. Mitchell the sum of $36,000, representing half of the rental income received during the period in question. Brittany's mouth dropped open. Additionally, due to the bad faith conduct demonstrated in rushing these documents while acknowledging the decedent was out of it, this court assesses a portion of the legal fees against Ms. Mitchell-Gray in the amount of $28,000. Her lawyer whispered urgently to her. Her face turned a mottled red. The judge finished. The parties are to work with their respective counsel to execute the necessary documents to effectuate this order. This matter is concluded. He banged his gavel lightly. It was over. As people started shuffling out of the courtroom, Brittany marched up to me, eyes blazing. You happy now? She hissed. You embarrass me in front of the whole family. You just cost me tens of thousands of dollars, Sarah. Over what? A house you didn't even want to manage. I stood up slowly, feeling an odd sense of calm. This was never about embarrassing you, I said. This was about you stealing from a dying woman who didn't fully understand what you were doing. You did this to yourself. She scoffed. You always loved playing the victim. Enjoy your half of the stupid house. Enjoy the refinance on your dream house, I said quietly. You're going to need it. Her eyes widened, like she'd forgotten until that moment that she'd have to find the money somewhere. Then she turned on her heel and stormed out. I watched her leave and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, justice. In the months that followed, the practical fallout started to unfold. Brittany had to come up with the $36,000 in rental income she owed me, plus the $28,000 in legal fees the court hit her with. Between that and her lifestyle, the only way to make it work was refinancing her big Ballantine house and making some serious cuts. The shiny SUV disappeared and got replaced with something much more modest. The "we're so blessed" tropical vacation she'd been bragging about online, around $12,000, quietly never happened. The Instagram posts shifted from luxury interiors to vague, busy updates with no travel shots. Word about the court ruling spread through the family. People talked. They read the public record. They heard about the sticky note. Invitations to brunches, baby showers, and family events started drying up for Brittany. People stopped asking her for tips on being successful and started side-eyeing her instead. As for the house, after everything settled, Eric and I sat down and had a long talk. We decided not to keep Mom's house as a rental. The memories were heavy. Every creak of the floorboards reminded me of late-night pill checks and whispered conversations about safety nets. Instead, we put it on the market. It sold for around $460,000. After splitting the proceeds and paying remaining costs, our half gave us enough to pay off some lingering debts and put about $80,000 down on a better home closer to Mason and Ava's school. A place with a little more space, a safer neighborhood, and a yard the kids could run around in. Signing the papers for that new house, I felt like Mom was finally doing what she'd always said she wanted to do, giving me and my kids some security. Not because I was the golden child. Not because I was the favorite. But because I'd been the one to show up over and over when it mattered. I didn't send Brittany a gloating message about the new house. I didn't post anything shady online. I didn't need to. I did send her one last text though. Not for her, but for me. This was never about greed, I wrote. It was about you taking advantage of a confused, dying woman and erasing what she actually wanted. I fought you because Mom couldn't. We're done. She responded with a long paragraph about how I'm ungrateful, vindictive, and brainwashed by lawyers. I read it once, then blocked her number. We've been no contact ever since. Every now and then, I hear bits and pieces through the grapevine. Brittany complaining that people turned on her. Brittany saying Sarah ruined my life. Brittany struggling to keep up the lifestyle she built on a foundation of appearances and other people's money. But that's not my problem anymore. In my new house, I have a small home office. On one shelf, behind my accounting textbooks and a couple of framed family photos, sits a thin folder. Inside is a copy of the voided deed, the judge's order, and yes, the sticky note. Sometimes, when I feel that old urge to just let things go, to minimize my own needs, I pull that folder out and read through it. It reminds me what happens when you don't set boundaries. It reminds me that protecting your peace sometimes means stepping into conflict instead of avoiding it. I didn't do all of this just for revenge. I did it to honor my mom's real wishes, to protect my kids' future, and to send a message to myself, as much as anyone, that I don't have to keep swallowing injustice just because that's how it's always been. But I won't lie. Watching my sister's smug confidence crumble under the weight of her own words on that projector screen, that felt incredibly satisfying. So that's my story. Sometimes the best revenge isn't doing something cruel in return. It's standing your ground, documenting everything, and letting the truth catch up to the person who tried to take what wasn't theirs. If this story resonated with you, I'd be grateful for your support, whether that's a like, a comment, or joining this community for more stories like this. And if you've ever been pressured to be generous with money or assets you actually needed to survive, especially for the sake of keeping the peace, share your experience below. Every comment helps someone else feel less alone, and your story matters. If you're dealing with something similar right now, inheritance drama, a manipulative sibling, a parent being pushed into signing things, document everything. Save the texts. Keep the emails. Get proper legal advice from someone who knows your local laws. You're not powerless, even if your family has spent your whole life treating you like you are. Thanks for listening. Take care of yourself, and hopefully, I'll see you in the next story.